로벤 나왔다 됐었는데 어디 쓴더라?
Okay, we will begin with a verse from Master Chandrakirti from Entering the Middle Way that says, from among the 10 perfections, the first 3 are praised as supreme for the householder. So we have a presentation. The usual presentation is of the 6 perfections, but we have a more elaborate presentation of the 10 perfections. So the first 3 of those are the perfection of generosity, ethics, and patience. So these 3 were praised as the supreme practice or great importance for lay practitioners. So if we look at our situation, we have come into this life, we have obtained a precious human rebirth. And the thing is that we have to engage in various activities whilst in the course of this life, whether it is mundane activities, whether they are dharma activities. And in order to be able to function, to operate, and so forth, we have to support the body. And to support the body, we need resources, money, food, clothes, accommodation, things like that. So it's very important to have these type of resources, because if we lack those, if we cannot support the body, then we will not be able to carry out even basic activities, both mundane worldly activities and activities of dharma. Now, the fact that in this life we have a certain affluence, we don't have difficulty, we have money to buy food, to buy clothes, we have resources and so forth. All of this wealth is a result of having practiced generosity in our previous lives. So it is the kindness of the previous lives that brought us into this life, not just with a precious human rebirth, but also on top of that with resources, right? The Buddha himself also has said, from generosity comes wealth. Therefore, the practice of generosity is very important because it gives us, as a result, all these resources that we need. So when we talk about the 6 perfections or the 10 perfections, if you take away the perfection of wisdom, all other perfections contribute towards the accumulation of merit. Now, when we talk about generosity, we need to understand what is the nature of generosity. So the actual nature of generosity is the intention to give, the mind that wants to give freely. And this is the opposite of miserliness. Miserliness is an affliction. It is counted amongst the 51 mental factors, which is this attitude of not wishing to give, even though you might have sufficient resources. So this stinginess, as we say, it's an affliction, and it really brings about very bad results. And therefore, it's very important every day to make the effort to minimize our stinginess as much as we can. So at the end, we will reach a point where we can practice generosity with whatever and at whatever scale we want without having the slightest trace of miserliness. The benefits of practicing generosity, we can see, are that we will be able to, we come back in life with resources that allows us to engage in these practices of the stages of the path of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that lead to the state of enlightenment. The faults of giving into miserliness and not practicing generosity is that in the future, we will be reborn as a hungry ghost. Hungry ghosts are a type of existence. They are sentient beings who are in a very pitiful, very miserable state. So it is said, like as an example of how or why someone was born as a hungry ghost, that someone approached a person and said, please, can you give me some water? And he refused. He had water, but he didn't even want to give water out of miserliness. And as a result of that, he was born as a hungry ghost with, this particular obscuration they have with the throat. They cannot swallow anything and so forth. So the benefits of practicing generosity are substantial. It's a great practice. And Geshe was saying it's amazing to see how much people in Singapore practice generosity continuously, openly. It's like generosity is flowing. And if you're able to, for example, practice generosity and support a puja, with a pure motivation and in a generous manner, then this is indeed an excellent practice. So when we talk about the practice of generosity, the important thing to understand is that we're not talking about material substances, how much you give in terms of material substances, but it really refers to the motivation, having that intention to give in order to benefit others. So the motivation here, when we engage in actions of generosity, is very important, because sometimes people give for the sake of fame, of reputation, and so forth. If the motivation is faulty from the beginning, then the activity will not bring good results, because it's not done with a pure motivation. Instead, it should be done always with the benefit to give in order to support, to benefit others. So in this case, even if you give just $1, it can have a great result, a great benefit. In terms of generosity, we have three types of generosity: generosity of Dharma, material generosity, and generosity of giving fearlessness. The first one, generosity of Dharma, is the most important one, because when you teach Dharma with a pure motivation, with the intention to transform, improve someone else's mind so that you lead them to the state of liberation, this is really an incredible activity. The second type of generosity is material generosity, which is usually, giving material aid to those who are impoverished, or those who have specific needs, and so forth. The third one is giving fearlessness. So there are many opportunities where you can help someone over in a difficult or stressful situation, and that becomes the practice of removing the fear from them. So, for example, Geshe was saying in Tibet, there are many places that are considered to be ghosted, and if you had to travel there at night alone, it will be very scary, very fearful. So if a friend would come with you and accompany, walk with you, then immediately that would take away the fear. You're not alone anymore in the dark with the ghosts, you have a friend. So this is practicing generosity or fearlessness. So very important practice. So as we say, the first 5 of the 6 perfections, starting with generosity, ethics, patience, and so forth, they become causes. They create the accumulation of the causes to establish the form body of the Buddha, whilst the perfection of wisdom, which is realization of emptiness, becomes the cause for the accumulation that establishes the Dharma body of the Buddha. And therefore, this practice of generosity brings incredible wave of merit. So sometimes we can look around us in the society and we can identify households that seems to be quite affluent, and other households that no matter what they do, they have difficulty with their finances. And it doesn't matter how much you support them, it doesn't matter how much money you give to them, there are certain people that are always short of money. So the reason for that is what they have done in their previous lives in terms of generosity. If someone has practiced generosity in their previous lives, they will come into this life without any financial difficulties. But if someone has not practiced sufficient generosity in the previous life, even if they come into this life as a human, nevertheless, they will have financial difficulties. Therefore, it's very important for us to engage in this practice of generosity, because it will bring about the results of wealth, of affluence that we need in our future lives. So as beginners, of course, there are limits to how much generosity we can practice. So we can only practice generosity in a limited way. If we look at bodhisattvas, for example, they can even practice generosity with their body. We are not at this point, we cannot practice generosity with our body, but whatever resources we have, it's important that we do not have attachment towards our resources so that we can easily give and offer and practice generosity. So let's go back into our text, the essence of refined gold. We are looking at this relationship between the student and the teacher. And we say, in order to rely upon a teacher, first of all, you have to find a teacher that has qualities. There is a certain number of qualities. The full list is the 10 qualities. So ideally, you're looking for a spiritual friend who has the full list of 10 qualities. It's not just the teacher who needs to have qualities, also the student must have certain qualities and qualifications. And when we're looking at the teacher, there is that saying that says, compared to the Buddha, your root guru, your Lama, is more important. Okay, the reason why we say that is that it's not in terms of qualities, right, that it has more qualities than the Buddha, but it is in terms of the kindness, right? Because our root guru, our teacher, our spiritual friend, is the one who actually guides us, the one who teaches us the entire path and leads us to the state of liberation and the state of omniscience. Now, Buddha Shakyamuni has come into this earth. Prior to Buddha Shakyamuni, many other Buddhas have come into this earth, but at the time when they visited here, we did not meet them. Perhaps we didn't have a suitable rebirth at that time. For whatever reason, we did not have the opportunity to meet them. It is only with this current, let's say, spiritual teacher, our root guru, that we have this opportunity to meet and have this relationship, and they guide us along the path to enlightenment. So from that point of view, they are the most kind, the most important for us. So when we talk about the qualities of the guru, as you've seen here, the master Sonam Gyatso has given the list of qualities from Mattheya's Ornament of Sutras, where he gives the list of the qualities of the fully qualified teacher. Many times people are fooled and they follow teachers who, let's say, they're very flamboyant, right? Someone in the Lamrim who has a car, or someone in the Lamrim who has a lot of money, right? People become impressed by that, and they choose to follow someone like this as their teacher. They are sort of like they're flattered to have someone, oh, my teacher has a car, okay, my teacher has money. So these are great mistakes. Okay, so we are back at the essence of refined gold. We're at the top of page 5, where it says, having listened correctly to the spiritual instructions from a fully qualified spiritual teacher on the stages of the path of the beings of the 3 capacities, here follows the manner in which to train the mind. So we know what it means to have a fully qualified spiritual teacher. It's someone who has the full list of qualities. And first of all, we should listen to instructions. So instructions really is the explanation on whatever particular topic you're studying. In our case, is those teachings, so these instructions that we receive in the essence of refined gold. So these are instructions that are given in order to you receive instructions because you need to put those things into practice. So we want to see the manner in which you train the mind, so how you practice. So the important thing here is that we must amass accumulation and engage in purification. So we need to develop this particular attitude that sees the guru as the Buddha, and in this way work towards our accumulation and our purification. So this is very important in this life and in future lives. So the instructions that we receive are instructions that will reduce the power of the 3 poisons and will allow us to develop the particular wisdom, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness, the wisdom realizing selflessness, as well as whatever merit is necessary in order to develop bodhicitta, great compassion, and so forth. So to develop these types of realizations, we need this great accumulation and significant purification. Okay, so It's when we talk about wisdom, we can talk about two types of wisdom. One is wisdom obtained through birth, and the other is wisdom that is cultivated in this life. When we talk about wisdom obtained at birth, we talk about the cases of those very special individuals who are born, who come into this life with very sharp faculties. Right. So from a very young age, they have very sharp minds. This is the result of having studied, having practiced, having cultivated wisdom in their previous lives. So they come in this life with a lot of imprints. Even though these individuals might be so special and so sharp intellectually from a very young age, even they need to rely upon a teacher. So whatever training, whether it is secular training, whether it is Dharma training, they will still have to receive instructions, rely upon a teacher. In particular here, when we talk about progressing along the path, the Lam Rim, the path that leads to the state of Buddhahood, definitely they need to rely upon a teacher and they need to engage in that training. So the important thing to understand is that in order to be successful and progress along the path that leads to enlightenment, we need to have the great collection of the two accumulations. Now, in the essence of refined gold, we don't have any special subheadings about this subject. However, there are the issues of, if you look at other Lamrims, you will find this as outlines, how to amass the accumulation and how to engage in purification, how to do the preliminary practices and so forth. So the accumulation, amassing the accumulation is very important because it's not enough to have intelligence. You must know how to direct, how to use your intelligence. So, for example, we know of people who are very intellectual, very sharp intellectually, but instead of benefiting themselves, benefiting others, they harm themselves, they harm others through the intelligence that they possess. So this is the result. Not being able to direct or use your intelligence properly is the result of not having enough accumulation. Okay, so in terms of amassing the accumulation, we need to engage in what is known as 6 preliminary practices. And the first of those is to clean the place, have a pleasant place, and organize and arrange representations of the body, speech, and mind. So here the text says, arrange an altar having images of your teacher, the Buddha, a stupa and a scripture, and so forth. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to have a place that is presentable. So imagine if your teacher was visiting, definitely you will clean the place, isn't it? You will organize it, you will decorate it as best as you can. So also in your meditation room, let's say, or wherever you're doing your practices, you will be inviting your teacher, you will be inviting all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and therefore it is important that the place is clean, organized, and well presented. So we know that it is very important to clean the place where your Lama, the deities, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will be invited. The Buddha has said that there are 5 great benefits when you clean the place. The first one is that your own mind will be clean and subdued. The second one is that the mind of others will be cleaned and subdued. The third one is that the deities will be happy with you. The fourth one is that you accumulate merit. And the fifth one is you create the causes to be reborn in a clean place, whether it is a human abode or the abode of the gods. Also, we know in the case of the Buddha, how he used this activity, the sweeping, the cleaning activity, in the case of the individual who was very dull. His name was the small path, and he was extremely dull. The Buddha gave him as a task to sweep the temple. And he had to recite, I remove dust, I remove stains, right? I remove dirt, I remove dust, I remove dirt. So of course, he went on, he initially had difficulty even memorizing these 2 lines, but the more he was sweeping, the more his intelligence developed. And very quickly, within that lifetime, he obtained the state of an arhat. So in this case, I remove the dust, I remove the stain, refers to removing anger, jealousy, ignorance, confusion, and so forth from the mind. Okay, so as it says here, arrange an altar having images of your teachers, the Buddha, a stupa, and a scripture. So having cleaned the place, we arrange representations of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. Now, when we arrange, usually, we will have a number of statues or images. So when we arrange those, there is a proper way of arranging them. So the image of our teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, should be the main one. So front and center, and if possible, above any other images or any other statues. And then following that, we would have the yidams, bodhisattvas, heroes, dakinis, and then after that, we will have the Dharma protectors. So it is very important that the images of Dharma protectors are at a lower position than Buddha Shakyamuni, the yidams and bodhisattvas and so forth. The other thing to take into consideration is that sometimes we are captivated by the material of which the statue is made. So we might have a material made out of wood, and a statue made of wood, and another statue made out of gold and silver. And then we look at the statue that is made of gold and silver, and in our mind, this is the most important, and we place it in the prime position. However, this is not how we arrange the statues, right? Buddha Shakyamuni, our teacher, has to be the most important. It doesn't matter what material it's made of. This is the main statue. This is the main figure in this presentation that we organize. Otherwise, if we put an emphasis and we take a lesser, like the statue, let's say, of a bodhisattva or a dharma protector that is made out of gold, and we say we elevate it because of the material, then it shows that we have very materialistic attitude. We see the Buddhas and the deities as material, which is not the case. Okay, so there's a proper way of organizing all these statues. So the sentences here, arrange an altar having images of your teachers, the Buddha, a statue, and a scripture, as well as pure offerings obtained without deceit. So the next thing is to organize the offerings, and the offerings have to be free of deceit, both in terms of material and in terms of the motivation. So the first one, the offerings have to be free of deceit in terms of the material. So the material here refers to whatever substance you're offering. It could be fruit, it could be flowers, it could be whatever you put up in your altar. So you have to make sure that these offerings that you put out there are not obtained, let's say, through deceiving other people or through stealing this material and so forth. They should be bought or obtained honestly with your own money. That is the result of your own hard work, right? So they are bought in an honest way. They are obtained in an honest way. The second one is that the offerings have to be free from the deceit in terms of the motivation. So let's say today you are organizing to make a very big offering in a monastery, offer food to all the monks, or offer a lot of butter lamps, a lot of flowers, things like this. But the thought that is running through your mind is that if I make this grand offering here, people will be impressed and they will be talking very favorably about my name. Right. So this is the wrong type of motivation. We don't present offerings in this way. We always present offerings in order to reach a state which is beneficial for all sentient beings, equal to the vastness of space. So anyway, there's quite a lot to say about how to organize offerings, the pure offerings and so forth, but we don't have time here. So it has to be a quick presentation. Okay, so once you have organized the offerings and the altar and so forth, then you assume you'll sit because obviously you're going to meditate. When we meditate, our meditation involves a visualization of the field of accumulation, the field of merit. We want to meditate on this field of merit in order to amass accumulation and work on our purification. So the important thing is that we need to sit down to organize a sit. So it says in front of your altar, prepare a comfortable meditation seat. Okay, so in terms of the posture, since we will be sitting to meditate, it is the posture that is praised as being the best one is the sevenfold posture of Vairochana. If you can sit in that posture comfortably, that is fine. If not, it is also okay to sit on a chair. So the 7 points of this posture of Vairochana, the first one is that the legs are in the full lotus position. The hands are in the mudra of equipoise with the right hand on top of the left and the thumbs touching. The spine has to be erect. And when the spine is erect, that makes a very big difference. It makes the mind clearer. And because the channels are open and the winds can circulate freely. So it is important not to sit hunched or with your back curved. The back has to be straight. The next point is that the neck has to be slightly bent. So do not face up towards the ceiling. Just the neck should be, you should have a slight angle. So putting the head forward a little bit. The next one is that the two shoulders should be naturally and equally, like not one higher, the other one lower. That's what it means. The eyes should not be totally open. They should not be totally closed, but instead you should be gazing downwards. The way that this is described is that you're looking towards the tip of your nose, towards, not at the nose. Okay. And the last point is that the tongue is turned upwards and is touching the palate of the mouth. The reason for that is because if you meditate for a long period of time, there could be that either your mouth dries out or saliva comes out of your mouth. So to prevent this, we turn the tongue and touch the upper palate. Okay, this is the posture, and it says that we have from within a very virtuous state of mind, we have to go for refuge and generate bodhicitta. So from within a very virtuous state of mind indicates a mind that is not under the influence of afflictions. But if you find that your mind is agitated at the beginning of your meditation, it is quite useful to do some breathing meditation. So you direct your attention to your breath and you count a few rounds of breathing, and that has a very good effect of neutralizing the mind. It makes a big difference. Okay, so we say that we assume the sit and then we have to do the meditation to visualize the field of merit. And in that, obviously, we have to visualize our lamas. So there are different visualizations. You can have different formations. There is what is called the inline formation, where the lamas are stacked one on top of the other, or you can have what is called the market formation, which is like a loose group, like a general group of various teachers without sitting one on top of the other. So here, there are different ways. So we will visualize a lot of lamas, but there are different ways in which we visualize a root guru, depending on whether we're doing a sutric practice or tantric practice. When we do the sutric practice, we visualize, we think that the guru, in terms of kindness, surpasses Buddha Shakyamuni, but we visualize the guru in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni. In the tantric practice, we visualize the guru in the aspect of the yidam, in the aspect of Vajradhara, or let's say Guhya Samaja or Heruka and so forth. Okay, and there are actually differences in these visualizations and in this training. So here for the sutric training, we say that it is very important to cultivate this understanding or this attitude that sees your root guru as the Buddha. So if you start from the very beginning to visualize the guru in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, who's not only the founder of our tradition, but also if you visualize the guru in that aspect, apparently that makes a difference in helping you to develop this realization. There's a different way that we practice as we train to develop the understanding that the guru is the Buddha, and a different way of meditating once we have already generated the realization of the teacher as being the Buddha. So here in the Sudric tradition, it is important to visualize, to see the ordinary aspect of the guru and not change it. So what we mean by this, let's say that in real life, your guru has crooked legs, right? His legs are not straight. So when you meditate on the guru, you also take on the ordinary aspect with the crooked legs. You do not try to straighten the legs of the guru in your visualization, because you have to generate this understanding that he is a Buddha, and that's why he's showing me an ordinary aspect. So you accept the ordinary aspect, you don't try to change it. Once when you make the tantric visualization, if your guru has crooked legs, you have to visualize them as absolutely straight, the best legs ever, because the guru has to be visualized as Buddha Vajradhara or Guhya Samaja or Heruka as the deity. So there's this difference. Okay, so as the text says here, in front of your altar, prepare a comfortable meditation seat, and either 4 or 6 times each day, sit there in the 7-point meditation posture. Conjoin your mind with a motivation and through trust in the 3 jewels, and generate bodhicitta through the refuge prayer and meditating on the 4 immeasurables. So once you have assumed your seat, the next thing, as we say, is that you visualize your gurus in front of you. So here in our case, what is more manageable is that we visualize, let's say, the main figures that are important for us. So let's say Master Atisha, Master Nagarjuna, Lama Tsongkhapa, maybe. So we visualize all the various figures in terms of our gurus that we visualize. We can see them all as having the nature of Lama Tsongkhapa, let's say. So that's also an important point, which is the point of the object of refuge encompassing all other objects of refuge. So you have one figure that incorporates everybody else. Okay, so then after that, what we do is we go for refuge and we generate bodhicitta. We go for refuge to all these gurus that we visualize. Now, of course, there will be a presentation of refuge later on, but the important thing here is that refuge should not just be a mere recitation. I go for refuge to the Buddha, I go for refuge to the Dharma, and so forth. It should come properly established with all the causes of refuge in place so that it is real refuge. So, as I say, we have to visualize various gurus, and you put them in different formations. So we have 3 options here. The first option, if you have many gurus, so amongst the many gurus, obviously one must be more important to you, more important in the sense that is the one who is most kind to you. So you can imagine that this one main guru includes all other gurus, so that all other gurus have the nature of this one. So in a sense, you're consolidating, one figure includes all others. This is one option. The second option is what is called the market arrangement. The market arrangement is you have many figures who are sitting loosely in a circle or in different groups, just as you would find people in the market, right? So that's a more complex visualization. And the third way of doing the visualization is to have them lined up at the crown, build up at the crown, above the crown of your head. Okay, so there is a story about this. The teacher was giving instruction to the students saying you have to meditate putting the teacher on the crown of your head. And then you have the other teachers going on top, building up. And the teacher who was giving this instruction was bald, right? So he didn't have hair on his head. And the student went away and he was trying to do this visualization. And then he came back the next day and the teacher was asking him, did you do the visualization of, stacking up the gurus? Yeah, not piling, but stacking up the gurus. Is it? And the student said, yes, I did. And it was very difficult because, you're bald and everything was slippery. Nothing was staying up at the top of your head. And the teacher was saying, you completely misunderstand this meditation, right? So there are not such problems of, whether the teacher has a bald head or whether he has hair in the head and so forth. It's not that the other figures are going to slip and fall off. There are no such problems.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So sorry, I forgot to explain the point about the four immeasurables. So you go for refuge, you generate bodhicitta, and you meditate on the four immeasurables, which is immeasurable love, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy, and immeasurable equanimity. All right, okay. So before we go any further, since we're coming towards the conclusion of this session, if there are any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Geshe. So my question is the visualization on the guru, right? The market example, like let's say aspects of market, but the aspect of all the gurus are all the same, or like visualize them as the face as what your guru face is. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. So actually, in our case, because we are beginners, it is not very good to engage a visualization of too many aspects, too many figures in a different aspect and so forth. So the best method for us, and the one that is indicated in various Lam Rim explanations, is to do the visualization of one figure that encompasses all others. So you might have many gurus, but amongst the many gurus, there is one that is special. All right. They have taught you, they have given you instructions, they have given you personal advice, and so forth. So we visualize all the other gurus as having the aspect and being one in nature with that main guru. So for beginners, it's best to keep it simple in the beginning. So also we have this expression in Lama Chopa, the Lama Tupuang Lobsang Doji Chang. So the root guru is actually all of these entities into one. It is Lama Tupuang, means indicates Shakyamuni Buddha. It is Losang, which is Losang Trapa, Lama Tsongkhapa, and it is Doje Chang, right? So all of those figures, they take, let's say, they are consolidated into one, and they have the aspect of Buddha, of Je Rinpoche, of Lama Tsongkhapa. All right, so it's best as a beginner to just have one aspect. When you develop and you have high realizations, you can very comfortably manage very detailed and various presentations. So, for example, you can visualize the 32 deities of Guhya Samaja, the whole mandala, or the many deities of Yamantaka mandala, and so forth. At the beginning, just keep it simple.
Hello. Thank you, Geshe, for your class, for your teachings. I have two questions today. The first question is about the motivation when it comes to generosity. In terms of generosity, earlier Geshe mentioned that when we give, we have a motivation with the intention to create the causes to perfect our 10 perfections actions, right? But what would be a better motivation? Is it having that motivation, or could it be a motivation to give because someone really needs it, rather than having I would say like a hidden agenda like that? So that was the first question. The second question is in regards to arranging the altar. Like what Geshe mentioned earlier, Buddha Shakyamuni at the center, but what comes to the left and to the right? Because from my shallow understanding, normally the right of Buddha Shakyamuni is either Maitreya or Amitabha, but that's it, right? So how do we arrange it? Which Buddha goes to the left, which Buddha goes to the right? It's just
Okay, so let's give an answer first about the arrangement in the altars. They are both very good questions. So Geshe was saying, okay, we take our teacher Buddha Shakyamuni as the one in the main figure in the center, and to its right, okay, so to its right side, put protector materia, because there you put the lineage of extensive deeds. And then to its left, put Manjushri, and all the lineage of the profound view. And also Geshe was indicating to the altar behind him, he was saying you can see how we have also this specific arrangement of Lama Tsongkhapa with Kedrubje and Gyaltsabje. One goes to the right, one goes to the left. So it is a standard specific arrangement. Also, usually when we put out the offerings, we start from the right side. Okay, but again, this might change depending on if you're practicing, let's say, Mother Tantra, so Heruka Vajrayogini, in which case you will start from the left. But anyway, so there can be some variations with the way that you organize the offerings. Okay. Okay, continuing with this presentation of the arrangement of the statues in your altar. So we say to the right side, we put protector materia, who symbolizes the lineage of extensive deeds. And in there, we have the instruction of bodhicitta. Now, the instruction of bodhicitta is something which is unique in the Mahayana, isn't it? And therefore, it's very important. Therefore, we think, the most important one, the instruction of bodhicitta, extensive deeds, materia, put all those to the right. Now, to the left, we put Manjushri, who is about correct view, realization of emptiness. It's very important, but it is not unique, because realization of emptiness you also have in the Hinayana. Here, solitary realizers have them. So it's not as unique as bodhicitta, and therefore put the view to the left, okay, Manjushri and so forth. But Geshe was saying the other thing that he mentioned earlier is that, for example, you might have different statues. Let's say you have a statue of Maitreya, a statue of Manjushri, a statue of Tara, and these are made of gold, all right? And then you have a statue of Buddha Shakyamuni that is not made of gold. It's just made of ordinary metal or brass or some not expensive material. And you're looking at the gold statues and you think, oh, because they are gold, they have to be in a better position or higher or more important than Buddha Shakyamuni. So don't make this mistake, right? It doesn't matter the material that the statue is made of. That's not important. That's not what determines how we organize the statues. Okay, so the other thing about generosity, so Geshe was saying, is we say the most important thing about generosity is that it becomes an antidote to miserliness. So generosity is the intention to give, all right. So the other one thing to keep in mind is that, okay, this is the instruction. You have to give. The Buddha says you have to practice generosity. Buddhas, bodhisattvas, even your gurus, they give you this advice that says you have to be generous, you have to give, you have to give, you have to give. But also you have to consider your own situation, okay? So what are your responsibilities? Okay, you have children, you have to educate, you have medical bills, you have to go to the hospital, you have your bills, right? And your emergencies in society. If you have a family, you actually have to be financially responsible for those things. So Geshe was saying there are many cases of people who would go up to the Lama and say, look, my situation right now does not allow me to practice generosity the way that you advised me or the way that the Buddha advises and so forth. So just to know that this is acceptable.